Calcano with Esper control, and you said it, if people are going to be playing control decks, it's going to be based around Revelation, and that's exactly what we see here, both these players sitting at 4-0.
So right now they're sideboarding here. Calcano took the first game. So really both players are playing, well, a lot of 4-ofs. These are really reminiscent of block decks. Lots of Etherlings. Kastle has 3 in the main, and then just loading up on exactly what you'd think. Syncopates, Azorius Charms, Detention Spheres, Supreme Verdicts, Revelations, and Jaces. Both decks have those. The Calcano has a couple black spells in Hero's Downfall, Doomblade, Far Away, whereas Darwin's playing Essence Scatter and 1 Elspeth Sun's Champion instead. I think what's really interesting is how the players are going to play out of the sideboard.
Yeah. I think that's the interesting part is we do see that Calcano is up a game here. So we'll start with Castle's sideboard first, which you have in front of you.
Well, Castle's sideboard, he has a lot more counter spells. He has 2 negates and he has 2 gainsays. So that's one of the new additions from Theros. Gainsay, pretty much a hard counter in this matchup. It's 1 and a blue to counter target blue spell.
I mean, it has a lot of interaction in this matchup. There's a million things to counter.
Yep, and the last thing he has is he has 3 Stealer of Secrets for the mirror.
Now that's surprising.
It's surprising because this was available in block and I never saw it be used.
No one took that route. I think most people ended up taking maybe the Precinct Captain route, more people taking the Nightveil Spectre route as well. Yeah, and not many people took the Stealer Secrets route, which, as you said, was available and no one chose really to do it. I mean, maybe there were people there doing it, obviously, at San Diego, but nothing that can remember of people actually. I think I would have heard a Stealer Secret story over the course of the tournament.
Interestingly, because he's only playing 2 colors, Darwin does have 4 Mutavaults in his deck also, which should be pretty relevant in this matchup.
Now, of course, Calcano's Esper, that means he's got black where Kastle does not. So immediately you're thinking, what are the black cards he has access to? Hero's Downfall and Doomblade are 2 of them, and Merciless Eviction is a 3rd. None of those cards really have a huge impact in this matchup, but the one that obviously does is what we saw from Kurth's deck as well, and that's Ashiok Nightmare Weaver. And if he's able to resolve that on turn 3 and just start the milling, it could be very difficult for Kastle to win.
He has to resolve one. Kastle does pay Detention Spheres. The card I'm most worried about is Sin Collector from Calcano's deck. That card was just an absolute beating in the Revelation mirrors in block. What it allows Calcano to do, because he boards in Sin Collectors, is he actually can keep his Faraways in the deck post-board. It gives him, because now he can Edict, he can use Away to away a Mutavault, away possibly a Stealer of Secrets, and the Far to bounce his own Sin Collector. Faraway still is a reasonable play post-board against a deck with almost no creatures. And Sin Collector, I mean, it will hit every time he plays it.
Yeah, a million targets, and you mentioned Sin Collector, 3 of them in Calcano's sideboard, additional discard and 3 Thoughtseizes as well. So how much discard does he want to load up on? I think that's a pretty interesting question, but I think he's got plenty of cards to sideboard out. Again, that spot removal in Hero's Downfall, in Doomblade, in Merciless Eviction as well. I'm not entirely sure how great Essence Scatter is here either, and you do know there is an Aetherling War, so it might be worth leaving that Singleton copy in.
Yeah, Supreme Verdict actually is the card I'm really not excited about. Right now, as far as he knows, there are no targets for Supreme Verdict in Darwin's deck. All he saw was Etherlings and Mutavaults. So you can leave in, I guess, Merciless Eviction because it can take care of a Jace. If you leave in any of your sweepers, that's the one you'll leave in, I think. That said, we know that he'll probably bring in Sin Collectors. Thoughtseize is a pretty good bet to bring in. Ashiok is almost certain. Calcano could go as far as to bring in Blood Baron of Vizscopa. Sure. That'll be interesting to see whether or not he chooses that.
So we're gonna have a nice little control mirror here, between Calcano and Kastle. Again, Calcano up 1. And if you guys are just joining us, Cedric Phillips with Fire and Sun Star City Games Oakland Series here in Worcester, Massachusetts. It's standard time. Brand new format. We saw Owen Turtenwald dispatch Lloyd Kurth very, very quickly. If you were wondering if Mono Red is real, well, the former Player of the Year is 5-0, so it's probably pretty real. We'll see
how he ends up. Turtenwald is real.
That's true. That's true.
We know that much.
Yeah, we will see how he ends up over the course of the weekend. We've got 10 total rounds. We're through 5 of them, and we'll certainly be keeping a watchful eye on many of the big-name players in attendance here. I know Matt Costa and Huey Jensen are both here. They're both playing blue-based Sphinx of Revelation strategies. Reed Duke, he was also playing Mono Red, but he is 2-2 coming into this round. So his top 8 dreams are dashed, but he does finish out every tournament that he plays in. So we'll see if he ends up maybe with an 8-2 performance with Mono Red.
Ross Miriam today playing White Weenie, actually.
Okay.
3-1 going into this round.
A lot of green-white decks in the room, I've been told. A lot of people looking to cast those Voice of Resurgences and Fleece Mane Lions this weekend.
Yeah. So the interesting thing is, these decks are so similar as to Blue-White versus Esper. The question, Calcano just has a more diversity of cards than Darwin does. Really what Calcano's done is shaved a lot of the 4-ofs and then played black cards. The question is whether or not the black cards are better than just having more redundancy.
So now you're going to see a Temple here from Calcano to start things off. Going to put this to the bottom, pass the turn back. Castle just with a Hallowed Fountain. He draws an Azorius Guildgate for the turn.
So Temples, as you know, the Temples are in all the Gate Crash colors.
Correct.
How many Temples would a control deck run here? How many does Calcano have?
Calcano's Temple count, he's got 3 Temple of Deceit and 3 Temple of Silence. That's 6 to go along with 12 dual lands. And then Azorius Guildgate, so we're looking at 4, 8, 12, 13 plus 6. Looking at potentially 19 coming to play tap lands.
Yeah, 9th, but I mean, if any deck is going to utilize these Temples, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the Esper.
Oh yeah, I think Esper is best served to utilize these Temples with full advantage. You do see Temple of Deceit on the screen there. You also see Kastle has revealed and cast an Omen Speaker. But now here's a Thoughtseize from Calcano. So let's take a look at the hand of Azorius Charm, Essence Scatter, Sphinx's Revelation, and 2 lands in Azorius Guildgate and Hallowed Fountain. Matthias, you're Thoughtseizing me. What do you take?
Revelation. I don't think this hand has very much going on in it. I mean, it depends what Calcano has, but I'm not. Azorius Charm, you only take Azorius Charm if you just think his hand is bad. If you're like, I want to take something that draws you something new. Essence Scatter, you probably don't take unless you have some really sweet card, but the thing is, he already has a blocker for what your creature might be. Revelation is the card I care about.
Yeah, I mean, inevitably this game is going to go incredibly long. Now, he's going to take Essence Scatter.
Well, that's telling of what's in his hand.
I smell a Sin Collector. How about you?
That seems pretty reasonable, because then if Sin Collector can just take the Revelation as well. These actually Omen Speakers are out of Darwin's sideboard.
Yeah. And now here's another one. So we're going to do a little more scrying action.
He scried the first. It looks like he scried Omen Speaker to the top.
Yeah.
I'm a little wary here. So I know this seems like a replacement for Augur Bolus, but because it doesn't actually draw a card, you are actually just playing a 1/3. You're paying a card for a 1/3.
Yeah.
So the value you have to get off it, if you're a deck that cares about card selection, that seems fine to me. But if you're a deck that cares about card quantity, I do not like Omen Speaker.
I am with you on that one. You see Omen Speaker on the screen. I think we're going to see a Sin Collector show up to the party here. There's 3 mana. And now here is the Sin Collector. There's the 2/1 that wants to get a look.
Coming by to collect a Revelation.
Yep, and that is not that is going to be exiled. Now exiled, certainly good, but doesn't matter
Means you
as much
can't
anymore.
Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, you can't Snapcaster Mage anymore, but there are no more Snapcaster Mage to be cast.
You can't Reap Intellect it.
There you go.
But that would be Calcano would be Reap Intellect, Psychic Intrusion it.
Sure.
I mean, that'd be Calcano. Yeah, I'm making stuff up. But it's a card that interacts with the graveyard at least.
You see Castle's going to take a look at that Sin Collector. It is a 2/1, so it's not going to be the best blocker right now.
No, so Kastle can continue the beats if he cares to.
And I think he's going to, with just 1, hold back that Sin Collector with the other Omen Speaker. Going to play Hollow Fountain, pass the turn back. His hand right now is Azorius Charm and a land, as Calcano's going to draw a card.
I think, I'm not positive if Calcano knows about the land.
No, the land is a mystery card.
Okay.
Yep. And I don't think Castle knew about this Jace that was coming, as Azorius Charm is going to get cycled. Jace ticking up to 5. Now, Matthias, I know that you played in the Block Pro Tour. I was there covering Team SCG, and every time I saw a Jace cast in the mirror match, it was oftentimes the person who cast Jace Architect of Thought and resolved it that ended up winning.
Well, Jace is the easier card to fight over. It only costs 4. It can't be dispelled. And it really generates a ton of card advantage. So in that sense, I think Jace is probably the spell you do want to fight over. It's really hard to get off the board.
You see a main phase Revelation there from Castle. He wants to make sure that does resolve and there are no counter spells to worry about. Calcano's going to tick this on down. 2 Temples and a Far and Away, which you thought he might leave in because of those Sin Collectors. And he does choose to leave in as Castle takes a look at it.
I think even though it's pretty good on this board, he'll just take whichever pile has 2 lands in it.
I think so.
Now, to be fair, this may play out a little differently than the block matchup because of when the Block Pro Tour was played, we still had the old Legend rule in effect. By Calcano, the first player to land the Jace stopped the second player from landing a Jace. Now, that's no longer true, so the matchup may have actually changed because of that rule.
So Calcano's going to end up taking the 2 lands. He's going to play a Temple. He's going to get a little card selection here. Says that one's not good enough for me. Put that one to the bottom.
Calcano's just going to play lands. That's the game plan. He's just going to play lands all the way up until, 15.
I think he's pretty happy to do that. He's not in much of a rush at all.
Absolutely not.
Kastle draws a Mutavault for the turn again. Remember, he did Revelation for 2 on his last turn. He's got a Syncopate in his hand. We see the Mutavault and then 2 mystery cards hanging out. So there is your Mutavault, and one of the cards is a Jace Architect of Thought. So Jace is going to go down to 1 for Calcano after those 2 Omen Speakers slide on in.
And this is going to be that interesting situation which I said didn't happen in Block. Both players now can have a Jace.
Well, if it does resolve. We'll see if that happens here. Calcano does have counter magic. Anything is possible.
I believe that other card, yeah, it's an old Syncopate in his hand. You're absolutely right.
Temple here from Calcano yet again. A little scry action. You see an Azorius Guildgate in his hand as well. You know, all these temples, as good as they actually are, scrying is certainly important. It does make it so that your aggro matchup is a little bit rough. Again, Calcano has 4, 8, 12, plus 6 is 18, 19 lands that can potentially come into play tapped against an aggressive deck.
Well, in the control decks in block, you were already playing guild gates, so it was pretty easy to upgrade them into temples. The mana, if you just play a bunch of basics, doesn't actually work for the deck. So guild gates and temples are really, you know, he's playing the full complement of 12 shock lands, and that's really just the next best land you can play.
So let's see here exactly what is going to happen as these turns progress, because I think step number one is you got to get that Jace off of the board, because that's a scary, scary card for Kastle. But Kastle also has a Jace of his own, so is it worth it to try to pick a fight here? I mean, you're looking at an opponent that has 6 untapped mana.
Now, the temples are only kind of good in this mirror. Once again, I kind of want to just talk about Scry.
Okay.
Scry is a really great mechanic for card selection, but it's not a great mechanic for decks that are card quantity. And I think one of the defining things about these Esper decks is the reason why cards like Think Twice are really good in them was that they really just want every card. There's not, you know, there's no card you look at and say, oh, I don't need this.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's another land, yeah, you're really happy to have another land.
Yeah, more lands means bigger revelations. As here's a Jace Architect of Thought from Kastle. It's going to resolve. Going to start off on 4 counters, and we'll see exactly where that's going to go here.
In this matchup, more lands means more mana to pay for more counter spells.
Yeah. Be able to pay for those syncopates.
Right.
Which, oddly enough, Kastle has. He has syncopate times 4 in his deck. You take a look at Calcano's deck list, he's only got 3.
So the Jace is going to flip 2 lands and a syncopate. If you're Darwin, which one he takes will be pretty telling for Calcano here. Like I said, normally in this matchup, you just take whichever pile has 2 cards in it. It actually is a card quantity matchup more than it is a card quality matchup. So if Darwin takes the syncopate, what that will tell Calcano is that Darwin's really short on action.
Yeah.
You know, that maybe he didn't have a counter spell yet.
So syncopate will go to the bottom, 2 lands will go to Castle's grip. Now Calcano's going to start by untapping his lands, 6 lands in play. Does have a Detention Sphere in his hand, so he could see something here where Calcano goes, all right, Jace, -2, goes away, get my cards, do what I do. Detention Sphere your Jace and move along. That's a potential play.
He could Detention Sphere the Omen